Good morning, you're very welcome back. Now, the global menopause market is now worth almost €15.5 billion, and we are now in an era of menowashing.
What is that? Here to tell us more about menowashing and its dangers is journalist Niamh O'Reilly and women's health doctor Deirdre Lundy. Thank you both so much for being here. It's a pleasure.
Morning.
Listen, I think there's a lot of people that's watching that's going, do you know, you wouldn't have heard the word menopause maybe once in your lifetime. It was over 20 years ago, and now it's everywhere. What's menowashing, Niamh?
So you're dead right. I think I have to preface this by saying it's great to be living in an era where we're talking about it. It's wonderful, and I feel quite lucky. Like I'm 42, so I'll be, I suppose, one of the first generation to go through perimenopause and menopause openly and talking about it, and lots of info and products out there. But I do think we've kind of reached almost like an information overload saturation point in terms of products. So what a lot of brands are doing now is they're slapping the word perimenopause or menopause on products, hiking up the price, and the products don't always necessarily have solid scientific data behind it to back up the claims, or they might be using, savvy marketing lingo like support or relieve, things that might not actually have, a big effect for the people taking it. And this is spanning everything from gummies, a lot of gummies, supplements, teas, chocolate. I've even seen menopause knickers and sheets.
Sorry, now I need to take a moment here and go, what in God's name are menopause knickers, and how are they different?
These particular knickers, which I saw, I won't say where I saw them, but I saw them, and the word menopause was on them, and I stopped in my tracks and I was like, am I dreaming? Or is this a nightmare? And it was cooling technology in the pants. But I would argue that a good pair of cotton underwear would probably keep you cool for like half the price that these were being.
Holes in them.
Well, maybe that's, go for Tommy if that's how you roll.
Doesn't everyone want their pants to be cool? Who wants a volcano down there?
Well-worn ones. There you go. It'll be cooling, isn't it?
Pre-love
What
pants.
are gummy ones? What do the gummies do?
So if you are a woman, probably age 38 plus, you will be bombarded. Well, I know my social media algorithm is bombarded with ads for Meno belly blasting gummies. Now, I'm not really sure if Meno belly is a thing, but I'm being told it's a thing all of the time.
It is a thing.
And if you take these gummies, which are like supplements, it will blast that Meno belly. It'll be gone. So these are the kind of ads we're being targeted all the time.
And there are the explosion in products. It is everywhere. Peri and Meno on everything. Deirdre, how many symptoms of menopause are there? Is that how long is a piece of string?
There's about 20 or 30 kind of big ones, really well recognized, and about a zillion other ones that people keep bringing in. And I'm like, okay. And we never say no. We're always open to explore new possibilities. But the top ones would be things like those extraordinary changes in mood changes that wouldn't be typical of that person, and those crazy flushes and sweats that can come many times during the day, and then very disabling coming during the night, 10, 15, 20 times, sometimes at a level where you're not even aware you're awake, but you're awake. So it destroys your restful sleep. And then you zombify around for 15 years,
Gotcha.
So are there products that definitely work?
Oh, God,
but it's just the oversaturation of it.
Well, I mean...
And everybody claiming that they can fix menopause.
Yes. So there's a lot of pharmaceutical and non-pharmaceutical menopause symptom treatments, which have been proven to be effective. Okay, so from a scientific point of view, and those are the ones we focus on in our clinic. We don't support or recommend any of the other stuff like the gummies or the knickers. Although I could see a value in the knickers, like if it was for flooding, period flooding or incontinence or something like that. But a cooling, like a gel pack knicker, I mean,
but that could be for anyone. It doesn't have to be...
No, exactly, this is the point.
There's a heat dome, lads. It's going to be very hot.
Exactly.
Cool yourself down.
Are they more expensive, though, these pants, for instance?
A lot of these things are more expensive because they put the word perimenopause or menopause on it. One of my big bugbears of this market is skincare. There's now menopause skincare, and I just fail to see the difference between that and a regular moisturiser. Do you know what I mean?
Well, from a medical point of view, is there a difference?
Well, my biggest concern is exploitation. You know, it's one thing if you have a lot of disposable income and you want to go off and buy some, you know, unscientifically validated stuff, go right ahead. But my worry as like medics is for people who are really struggling, who need good medical advice and proven effective, safe treatments. But instead of having ready access to that, and I admit fully that that's not always the case in this country, they run off to the herbal shop, the health food shop, the pharmacy, trolling the shelves for anything with the word meno in the prefix, and then, you know, often paying a lot of money for this stuff, which doesn't work. Might work for a little while, and you think, okay. And then after a couple of weeks, a month or two, you realize, I spent 60 euros on nothing.
Well, is that a thing then, the placebo effect?
Absolutely it is. And we know this, particularly, I think, in women more than men. It's like our superpower in that our optimism and our positivity, we start a new treatment, if it's a tablet or a vitamin or a mineral, and we're like, this is going to make my life better. And it does. But what's making you better is not the chemical, it's your attitude.
But is that not a bad thing, maybe?
No, it's a great thing, but we would like to see that with actual mind, body, spirit therapy as opposed to...
but if there's something that you're taking that is doing nothing, but it makes you feel better.
As long as it's safe, then knock yourself out.
Are some not?
Okay.
Yeah. Or some are we are concerned about. So there are people who are self-medicating with alternatives to say hormone therapy, which we know a lot about nowadays, with sort of like herbal products, things like phytoestrogens and isoflavins and all these kind of supplements that you can buy, many of which have quite strong estrogenic activity in them, which is fine if you're just going through a standard menopause. But if you have an estrogen-sensitive cancer, the last thing we want is you toddling down to the herbal shop and throwing pills inside of yourself that could actually have an estrogen receptor activity on your tumor.
Okay, that could be very interesting. For like, that would be dangerous. So these things can react with what you're doing.
Yeah.
So I have to say, I'm not someone who does much research. I'm like, oh, look, it says that it does what it says in the tin. Sure, I'll give it a go, right?
Yeah, and if you're feeling vulnerable or hormonal and, you know, you keep being bombarded with these ads and being told you should be buying something, you're in perimenopause, you need to buy, you know, you like cave and say, yeah, I'll spend the 30 euro on the gummies.
But these days you have a bad hair day. Oh, Jesus, it's menopause. You're like, oh, lads, I just didn't wash my hair. Calm down.
True.
Yeah.
So what's science? Like, what works, Deirdre? What should we be looking for?
Nothing. No other therapy is as effective as hormone replacement therapy.
HRT.
End of story.
Okay.
Not only does it relieve the majority of the symptoms, it also has enormous positivity when it comes to things like cardiovascular, bone, and mental health. So that is a truth, and that is validated scientifically without question. There are problems. There are people for whom certain hormones are not recommended, and it's the cancer survivors, the people who've been diagnosed, particularly with breast cancer, some kinds of ovary, some kinds of womb cancer, who we're telling them you must not have hormones. So what do those poor people do?
Yeah.
You know, so they're often very vulnerable to exploitation because they have been told you can't have this. And they do feel quite left down, and rightly so.
HRT, there's a shortage, was that right? That I saw there was a shortage,
and
not everybody gets it, or not it works for everyone.
Some products have a run, and then you can't get the actual product you like. So there's loads of different permutations and variations. They all deliver the same molecule. You just have to find the one that suits you, and then hope to Jesus that it's still in the pharmacy when you go back 6 months later. Because when something gets popular, our supply gets taken over, and then you have to segue to another product. But things are much better now than they used to be. Now, that's having said that a month into free HRT,
which has just happened on the drug payment scheme,
it could actually set another slight shortage as maybe uptake increases, but I haven't seen that yet.
Okay. Niamh, is there any regulation in this industry for when you're putting signs on certain products or supplements that say this is going to be great for you in peri or menopause?
No, not officially. And I chatted to the Advertising Standards Authority for the article, and they have said they haven't had a huge flurry of complaints. I think they had one complaint in or something like that, and it wasn't followed up because it wasn't warranted. So while they said they haven't identified a trend of menowashing, that doesn't mean menowashing isn't happening. But there's a UK company called MTIC, and they have set up this symbol which they have put on particular products that have fulfilled their particular set of criteria, and it is to show that the product has some benefit for people going through perimenopause and menopause. Now, this is a private company, it's a business. Brands have to pay a fee in order to get their brand vetted, you know, in order to get the criteria. So take it with a pinch of salt, but it might be a step in the right direction, you know, to know that there's something in this that might support or relieve your symptoms in some way. It's not going to cure it, but if it works for you, well, and it's not doing any harm.
What's the issue here? What's the issue?
The issue is that women, I think 38 plus, are sick of being aggressively marketed to about the menopause all of the time, and the words perimenopause and menopause being slapped on everything from tea to knickers to chocolate to gummies to supplements to shampoos, and hiking the price up.
So it's the price more than... Is it the price or is it the actual...
Both. It's both. It's like if you are
It's the pink tax. Why is a woman's razor more expensive than a man's razor?
Exactly. And it's the constant aggressive marketing of something as well.
But it's obviously worth it whenever you're talking it's a 15.5 billion euro
it's huge,
market.
and it's predicted to grow. So this is only going upwards, you know.
1 in 10 women leave their job because of their menopause. So Deirdre, how can we support people in this situation?
Well, I think the Minister for Health has done a great job in bringing to reality the free HRT. The next thing we need is support for doctors and nurses to give menopausal advice and perimenopausal advice, because if you don't have a medical card, you're still paying out of pocket for that. And the variable quality of information that's being delivered in general practice is improving, but it's still not great.
Yeah, because the science is really kind of just starting on this whole
As you said,
area.
10 years ago, nobody wanted you to go on telly and talk about menopause.
Absolutely not, would you? Listen, to get in contact, we'd love to hear from you. 0896 111 111, and Niamh O'Reilly, who wrote that article in relation to menowashing. Thank you so much for coming in. And Dr. Deirdre Lundy, women's health doctor, thanks a million for coming in to us today. Really appreciate it.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for that.